All right, we're going to start with the train project here. If you turn to page number 4 in your notes for the train project, you can see we're going to start from the back side of the train. I've made sure my train folder is active and live and the project's ready to begin. Hit done. New, standard IPT. And we'll take a look here what this looks like from the back end. We need to make a square and then a radius line to design the back of this train. We know that from the outside to the center is 1 inch, so the overall width is 2. The overall height from the center point of this peg circle is a radius of 2.35. So I'm going to make my rectangle bigger and then adjust things afterwards. So we know that this is also a drilled hole with a 0.25 diameter that is 0.5 inches deep. So let's start putting this together here. I'm going to draw a rectangle starting at my origin and spread that out. Next, I'm going to dimension the bottom at 2 inches. And the height, I'm going to make close to 3 just for now. And there's my back of the train. Next thing I want to do is I want to put a point, and I want to line it up in the center, and I want to dimension the correct distance off the bottom. Right now that distance is, looking at my notes, 0.375. Alright, the radius to the top of the back of the train is a 2.35 radius. How are we going to do that? Circle, center point, drag it out wherever, dimension it, and that's a diameter. We're given a radius of 2.35. We need to multiply that by 2. Now, where these intersect, we can go ahead and trim away to get the back side of the train. Let's trim that piece, and the rest of the circle. And then I can go ahead and hit escape, click on that one line and delete it. Now I've got the back side of my train. I'm going to finish this sketch. I'm going to extrude at a distance of, if we look at our original drawing up here, 5.5 is the whole body of the train. Alright. Now, front of the train versus back of the train. Well, let's move around here, get back to that back side. And we notice that point that we made is gone. We're going to go ahead and create a new sketch. We can put that back on there. And this is showing up from a previous sketch. It might work for us, it might not. Let's see what happens when we put another point on top of it. We know it's in the right place right now. We can dimension it to make sure that it's 0.375 off the bottom, and it is. We can finish that sketch, accept that, do a hole. We know that it's a pointed drilled hole that is a diameter of 0.25, and it has a depth, so the termination for this hole is a distance, in this case, of 0.5. Alright, that hole is done and ready to go. Let's take a look back here at the front of our train and start talking about how to design this. If you look back on page 3, you're going to get most of the dimensions that you need right here. Let's start by looking at how to do the front side of this train right here. This is an interesting shape. It kind of intersects in a funny way. So what do we know about it? Well, we know that there is a line that could come across the front of the train that is exactly 0.875 tall from there to there. So I'm going to go ahead here. I'm going to throw a sketch on the front surface. I'm going to draw a line across the front. I'm going to dimension that line off the bottom, 0.875. Once that's there, I can then determine where the center of the circle is. In this case, I'm going to draw a circle centered left to right with those dotted lines. Spread that out. I'm going to dimension that circle at 0.75. Oh, that was the radius. I need to have that times 2. You can tell sometimes right away when something doesn't fit because it doesn't make sense for the rest of the drawing. That looks better. Now again, we have these intersection marks that we can go ahead and get rid of. I'm going to trim that part of the line and that part of the line. Now I've got that front shape. Now we might be missing enough lines down here to complete this extrusion. Let's just see what happens. Let's finish the sketch. And let's extrude this portion back in a cut manner. That's the second option. And that distance, to me, looks like 1.75 less than the entire length of the train. So 5.5 minus 1.75. Hit OK. Now I've got my train starting to appear there. Now we've got some holes to put on the side of this. We'll start with this side over here. Place a sketch on the side of the train. You want to draw a circle on the back edge. I'm just going to guess at its location right now. I'm going to dimension that circle. Has a radius of 0.5, so a diameter of 1. The height of that is exactly 1.75 off the bottom. From center of circle to bottom. 1.75. So now the circle is in the correct spot. The circle is the right size. We don't have it the correct distance from the back of the train. Now that might be kind of hard to do since we already put it here. Let's see if we can move this a little bit. We're going to select the circle to move. Base point right there. Alright. And we're going to bring that in a straight line. Now look, our dimensions changed a little bit here. That's not a problem. We can go ahead and hit done. Click on this. Delete it. And redo it. And it is still 0.75, so that's good. The distance from here to the back side is 0.25. Now all we need to do is trim away the excess portion of the circle. And look a little closer here at what has to change. We don't have this curve existing, so we need to draw a line from the top point that has a dotted snap to it to the back, and another one right there, dotted line shows up, drag it to the back. Now we should be able to trim away that portion and that portion. Finish sketch, extrude that piece, cut, distance to next surface. That puts it right there at the edge, and hit OK. Let's take a look at that. And that should match what they're looking for right here with all those dimensions. Alright. Next thing we're going to look at is working on this front of the, this hole for the chimney stack. Now remember, this hole is not just an extruded circle, it's a hole feature. So we have two determining factors for that. We know that it has a diameter of 0.5 and a termination depth of 0.25. We know that it exists 0.1875 from the front of the train. How are we going to do this? This is a little bit different. We're putting a hole on top of a cylindrical object. So here's how it's done. Home view, create sketch on that surface. Actually, undo that. Do not create the sketch yet. First, put a work plane on that surface. And then we're going to move our mouse to the top of the circle. And we should be able to then offset that up to there. Let's see if that works. Nope, not in the right place. next thing we can do is look at the height difference between where this plane exists and where we want to go with it. It's a little on the low side right now. Let's offset that plane up. Actually, delete this one. Hold on. Try one more time. Plane, offset from plane. Here, we have a dimension we can offset off this surface. All right, we're going to offset this about 1.25 inches, and that should get us to the top of the cylinder. Let's see if that worked. And it did. So we were hovering right here. Well, it's not quite there. Alright, a little problem there with the video, but we can keep going. So we're going to do a work plane from this surface, and then click up here. Oops, didn't work again. Plane, here. Now click on that surface, and the work plane's hovering above. If we look at the front, we can see it's perfectly on top of our cylinder there. Alright, now we need to figure out exactly where to put that hole. So we're going to go to the top view, looking down on this, and we are going to do what's called a new sketch on the work plane. And now we can draw on this surface. I'm going to draw a circle, and I want it to be centered. It's kind of hard to tell. I'm going to look at the top view of this. I want to make sure that circle is about centered. If I can't get it just right, that's fine. I can work with it later. Another option that we can work with is called project geometry. With project geometry, we can bring up lines and surfaces that have already been used. So I'm picking the sides of that cylinder right now. Now they're yellow. And they're going to allow me kind of some dimensions and sizes to work off of. I'm going to do a circle. I'm going to put it right about there. Oops, excuse me, a point. Put it right about there. That point needs to be dimensioned off of the front of the train at 0.875. That's the distance away. And then that point needs to be dimensioned from the side of that cylinder at exactly 0.75, which is already there for me. Okay. Now that point is done, I can finish the sketch. I go to the home view, hole. In this case, the hole has to be 0.5 in diameter. .5 in diameter, and the depth has to be distance 0.25. Now that hole is done. I can hit OK. If I don't like the way this work plane looks up here, I can right click on it and turn its visibility off. Alright, train's coming together. The next thing is I need to start working on the holes that are on the side of the train. So again, I can put a sketch on the side. All holes are drilled with point angles, and the dimensions on those are 1/4-20 UNC with a depth of 0.875. So I can put points here and there, doesn't matter where. Now I can dimension them. They have to be, this one has to be 4.5 from the back of the train, and this one needs to be 1 inch from the back of the train. Alright. Dimension off the bottom are 0.5. Same with this one. .5. Alright. Now there are 4 of these. There's 2 on the other side. Let's finish the sketch here first. We're going to do the hole feature again. It chooses both for us. The hole, we'll look real quick at these. 1/4-20 UNC 0.875 is the depth marker. Alright. So we have a threaded hole.